With sadness, Kalishi returned back to the village. That same restless night, Kalishi received a strange visit. An old witch she once saw in the chamber appeared at his doorstep, her eyes glowing with unnatural light. She whispered, "If you must be with her, you have to retrieve something from the Forbidden Falls, a place where few return." Kalishi hesitated, knowing the journey to the Forbidden Falls was treacherous, filled with deadly creatures and cursed lands. But he had no choice. Before dawn, he set off alone, the weight of his lover's fate on his shoulders while the witch's cryptic warnings echoed in his mind. The forest grew darker as he ventured deeper, the air thick with tension. Each step felt like he was walking straight into a trap, but he pressed on, knowing that failure meant losing Zina forever. As Kalishi trekked deeper into the dark, twisted paths of the Forbidden Falls, the air grew colder and a heavy mist began to cling to the ground. His heart pounded, each step feeling heavier than the last. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, whispers, distant growls, and the rustle of unseen creatures. At last he reached the falls, but instead of cascading water, he found a towering rock formation with black, oily liquid dripping slowly down its sides. At the base, nestled among jagged rocks, was an ancient relic, small, obsidian amulet. It pulsed faintly with an eerie blue glow. This had to be what the witch spoke of, but as soon as he reached for it, the ground trembled. Suddenly, the trees surrounding him shifted, and from the shadows emerged a guardian, creature half-man, half-beast with red eyes and horns as sharp as spears. It bared its fangs, blocking his path to the amulet. Kalishi realized this was no ordinary task. To save Zina, he would have to confront this ancient spirit, one that had long guarded the cursed amulet. The creature snarled, and Kalishi prepared for a fight. The weight of the village, his lover's life pressing heavily on him. The creature lunged at Kalishi, its claws slicing through the air. He barely dodged, tumbling backward, heart racing. The amulet's glow grew stronger as if it sensed the danger, but Kalishi knew he couldn't grab it yet, not while the guardian stood in his way. Breathing heavily, he scanned the surroundings, looking for anything he could use. The rock walls of the falls were steep, and the liquid oozing from them was slick and thick, leaving no room for escape. The beast roared again, this time charging with terrifying speed. Kalishi's instincts kicked in. He grabbed a nearby branch, swinging it just as the creature attacked. The impact staggered the guardian, but it quickly recovered, its glowing eyes narrowing with fury. Kalishi felt the cold, dark presence of the amulet pulling at him. It was as if the object itself was calling for him, urging him to reach it. He knew this wasn't just any relic, it held immense power, but at a cost he couldn't yet understand. As the guardian circled him, ready for another strike, Kalishi made a desperate decision. He taunted the creature, moving closer to the amulet. The beast lunged, and at the last second, Kalishi rolled to the side, letting the creature crash into the rocks. In that split second, he grabbed the amulet. As soon as his fingers wrapped around it, a freezing shock shot through his body, and the world around him dimmed. The guardian froze mid-attack. Its red eyes flickered, and slowly, it began to fade into the shadows, as if the amulet had sapped its power. But Kalishi wasn't safe yet. The ground beneath him quaked again, and the black liquid at the base of the falls surged, twisting into serpentine shapes, slithering toward him. Clutching the amulet tightly, Kalishi realized its power wasn't only to defeat the creature, it was meant to unlock something far worse. The air grew thick, the oppressive weight of the spirits pressing down on him. Kalishi, a voice echoed through the mist. He turned sharply. There, at the edge of the clearing, stood the old witch. Her eyes glowed with the same unnatural light, and her smile was unsettling. "You've done well," she hissed, her voice reverberating through the air. "But now, the true sacrifice begins." Kalishi's breath caught in his throat. He had been tricked. The amulet was never meant to save Zina. It was meant to awaken the very curse that threatened to consume the village. Desperately, he looked for a way out, but the witch's eyes were on him, and the dark forces surrounding the falls were closing in. Kalishi's mind raced. He was scared and didn't know what to do. He felt betrayed. He tried to hide from the growing darkness around him, Suddenly the wind started blowing heavily. A voice from the wind called out to him. Kelechi listened and recognized the voice. Zina, he called. The wind continued to blow, and this time causing leaves to float. The witch was shocked as to what was happening. The wind howled, following a whirlpool, Kelechi looking at the whirl of the wind as it drew near to him. You must not give up my love. She isn't stronger than you. Our bond is so strong, Zina said from the whirl. A tear dropped from the Kelechi eye. He looked at the whirl and saw a pool showing him as the village he loved and cared for was being destroyed by the witch. Kelechi cut through the growing darkness, grounding him in a moment of clarity. He looked down at the amulet in his hand, its cold surface pulsing with the energy of trapped souls. It was the key to all of this, the curse, the guardian, the witch. He knew he had to act fast. The witch began chanting, her voice low and sinister, and the black serpentine liquid surged closer, slithering toward him like hungry shadows. Kelechi tightened his grip on the amulet, and for a brief moment everything seemed to slow. He had only one option left, to destroy the very thing that had drawn him into this nightmare. But how? He looked around, his eyes settling on the jagged rocks at the base of the Forbidden Falls. If he could shatter the amulet against the ancient stones, maybe, just maybe, it would break the curse. With a surge of determination, Kelechi bolted toward the rocks, the liquid creature snapping at his heels. The witch's chant grew louder, more frantic, as she realized his intent. No, she shrieked, her voice echoing across the clearing. Kelechi reached the rocks and raised the amulet high above his head. As he prepared to bring it crashing down, the air around him seemed to thicken, as if the spirits were trying to stop him. His arm felt heavy, but with every ounce of strength, he slammed the amulet against the jagged stone. A deafening crack split the air. The amulet shattered into countless pieces, and a blinding light burst from the point of impact, forcing Kelechi to shield his eyes. The liquid creatures recoiled, writhing and hissing before dissolving into nothingness. The witch let out a blood-curdling scream, her body flickering like a dying flame. You fool, she spat, her form disintegrating into ash as the curse was lifted. Her power tied to the amulet was broken. Kelechi fell to his knees, exhausted. The weight of what he had just done settled over him. The forest grew still, the oppressive darkness that had once loomed over the falls dissipating into the crisp night air. For the first time, he could hear the gentle trickle of water from the falls, as if the land itself had been freed. He looked up and saw a being so mighty, a being he only heard of in legends and stories told by his ancestors. It said to be the god of thunder and Madiohe. Kelechi stood up. The divine being reached out to him and gave him a moonstone. This will bring your beloved back, breaking the curse. Kelechi took the stone, thanked the divine being. Kelechi took one last breath, his thoughts consumed with the love he had for Zina. I'm coming, my love, he whispered, and in a hurry he left. He arrived at the ancient chamber. He placed the stone on the mirror. Light emerged from his body as he chants and calls for his beloved. The mirror portal was opened and he dragged Zina out of the mirror. Tears streamed down Zina's face. Kelechi whispered, kneeling beside him, her hands trembling. You saved me. You saved us. He looked at her, his chest heaving with exhaustion and relief. I couldn't let them take you, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. I'd fight 1,000 curses if it meant keeping you safe. Zina hugged him tightly, her heart pounding against his. The bond between them had only grown stronger through the trials they had faced. The spirits had been laid to rest, and the ancient curse that haunted their village was no more. Together they stood, looking out at the now peaceful landscape of the Forbidden Falls. The nightmare was over, but deep in the pit of Kelechi's heart, a lingering question remained. Would the spirits truly stay at rest? For now, though, they walked back to the village hand in hand, their bond unbreakable, as dawn's first light kissed the horizon. If you enjoyed this thrilling African horror story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chilling tales.